The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are solely their own and do not represent the position of the host, this show, or any organization either party is affiliated with. All content is shared purely for educational and inspirational purposes. Nothing discussed here constitutes professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to independently verify any information before acting on it. The host is not responsible for any outcomes resulting from guest statements. By listening, you agree that you are solely responsible for how you use the information shared. Welcome to the Tech Sharmit podcast, where technology is not just news, but the roadmap to the future. This is a space where we explore the latest tech trends, AI, startups, gadgets, and the ideas that redefine the way we think. Leading this conversation is Amit Sharma, globally recognized as Tech Sharmit. A technologist from Bharat, Amit brings an Indian perspective to the global technology landscape. With deep technical expertise and strong industry insight, and for his contributions and impact within the global tech community, he has been recognized with several prestigious honors, including Google Developer Expert, Microsoft MVP, IBM Champion, and Planet Mainframe Influencer. Through this podcast, he shares practical knowledge, real-world perspectives, and globally relevant thinking designed to help you stay ahead in an ever-evolving technology landscape. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the Tech Sharmit channel to stay updated with future episodes. And if you're looking to level up your skills, don't forget to explore the Tech Sharmit digital course book in the description box, where you'll find thousands of free programming courses curated to help you grow as a developer. So plug in your headphones and join us as we begin today's episode of the Tech Sharmit podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tech Sharmit podcast. Today I am joined by another very special guest, Frank Falvey, who is joining us from Ireland. If I talk about Frank, then he is a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional, Microsoft Certified Trainer, Infrastructure Specialist, Azure Expert, and Cybersecurity Professional. So in today's episode, we will talk about enterprise infrastructure, cloud technologies, Microsoft 365 Copilot adoption, and many other things. But before we get started all of these things, I would like to thank Frank for joining us today in this episode. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us a bit about yourself.
How you doing? I'm Frank Falvey and I'm application engineer, Microsoft MVP in the Copilot category. And I am also a Microsoft certified trainer. I do a lot of stuff around AI and Copilot now, and I'm also the founder of the Azure and AI show that I run every week. So that's kind of some of the stuff I do.
Okay, so Frank, like those who know you through your professional network, they can recall you as a expert, Azure expert, MVP, MCT, right? But we just wanted to know you, your initial days, like what was the moment that sparked your interest for the IT industry. So could you please take us back to that beginning? Like just tell us like what was drew you into the IT, and was there any specific moment you knew that yes, hardware and server infrastructure was your domain where you want to contribute? So how did all get started?
I suppose it happened when I was fairly young. I'm going back to the days when we had videos and remote controls just came into, so I'm going back a bit. So all my neighbors and things used to, if they got a new TV or a new video, they'd have to call Frank over to tune it in and show him how to work it and whatever. And then after that, I kind of progressed to into CB radio and putting up antennas, and it kind of led from there. And then as I got older, then obviously into the computing and wherever, I ended up that I wanted to go to college and learn more about computing and electronics.
Mm-hmm.
And I started a college course. The first one was manufacturing technology, and that kind of had everything in it, like from compute to electronics, electrical. It had some difficult stuff in it as well, like maths, and it was higher level maths at the time, and it had
Okay.
physics and all that. So kind of that was kind of my pathway through. And when I left college after qualifying, I started in a company called EMC.
Mm-hmm.
EMC at the time, it would have been around 2000. Data storage and the internet was exploding, so that was my entry into kind of the technology space.
Okay. So yeah, it's quite interesting, like how your journey got started, and later on, like you achieved so many accolades as well. One of them is Microsoft MVP, because we all know that it's a huge achievement, right? But at the same time, I just want to let everyone know that it's not the just the achievement. There is passion of work that everyone is doing consistently to achieve these kind of certification. Even expert like Frank, they are also contributing a lot, and then they are recognized with these kind of awards of Microsoft MVP, certified trainer. So, Frank, could you please help us to understand like how it all the journey of Microsoft MVP got started, and what kind of community contribution or content do you focus on that led to you that kind of recognition?
Yeah, I suppose it started back in around 2016. I was given a talk on machine learning in Dell Technologies,
Mm-hmm.
and when I was at that meeting, there was a person from Microsoft, and he was the MVP lead for Ireland. And I got talking to him, and he kind of asked me, would I be interested in, doing some stuff for the MVP program? And that was kind of my entry into it, and so I kind of met other people that were in the MVP space, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the people was Dan Ray, and he helped me set up a weekly and a monthly program. We had the monthly one that was called Journey to the
Okay.
Cloud, where we kind of had people come on and give different talks about how they kind of done stuff and their journey to cloud computing and technology and stuff like that. And then it kind of progressed into a weekly program where I was doing a lot of stuff with Azure at the time, learning how to do certification for the Azure administrator. That was my first one. And then we um, done the weekly show, and we had a lot of people in there. And that's kind of my main contribution towards it. I also have a monthly blog that I do about different topics got to do with
Okay.
Microsoft every month. And in the last year, I actually mentored four women to get their MVP, and they got their MVP. So I'm kind of very proud of that as well.
That's really very inspiring, and especially for the aspiring candidate who wanted to become MVP, they should learn a lot from your journey, because you also explained like everything has a process, right? We have to contribute, and it's not just because of certification. No one is doing it just because of the swags and certification. Everyone is doing it because they really want to contribute to a certain level, right? And once you start doing it, once you start contributing it, then you will be rewarded with these kinds of certification. So everyone, like those who are interested in to become MVP, you can follow the journey of expert like Frank, so that you can understand like how they are contributing, and then you can also try to contribute in that areas to become the MVP or MCT accordingly. So it was really an insightful process that you just shared, Frank. And now I just wanted to talk a bit about your other part of journey, because you also troubleshoot the hardwares like motherboard, GPUs, and the server component at a scale level. So from your perspective, like what's the most elusive hardware issue you have ever had it to diagnose, and what was the scenario on that day, like when you were taking care of those kind of issues related to the hardware
Yeah, that's a great question, because when you're troubleshooting at scale, there's issues that kind of keep you up
Hmm.
at night, think about some of these failures, um, like monitoring alerts, swap boards or GPUs, and you move on. The ones that haunt you are the kind of environmental issues.
Mhm.
The the most issues I've ever had to track down involved like clusters of high density GPU servers um, that are dropping heavy AI training workloads. Um, but they weren't kind of failing hard crashes or clean hardware error codes. When you're experiencing things like silent data corruption, where math coming out of the GPU are just slightly off, causing the training models to diverge. Um, like you could spend days kind of swapping enterprise
Yeah.
GPUs and PCI riser cards, and you could be running overnight stress tests and everything, pass individually. Then you kind of break down data into different segments and kind of trying to separate out the hardware from the software and stuff like that. Like you could have stuff like that might be running next to the actual tester that you're running stuff on, and it could be stuff that's running loads of hard drives, and they'd be spinning up and spinning down, and the noise off of that could actually trigger hardware failures across another one. So it's kind of tough kind of situation to be separating them all out.
Yeah. And one thing, like when we talk about, especially about the troubleshooting, there's a popular term that is root cause analysis, right? In both software industry as well as hardware industry. So I just wanted to know your approach for the root cause analysis, like how you analyze your problem when a problem could be a both hardware, firmware, even a software as well. So in that situation, what is your process of root cause analysis?
Yeah, when you think about hardware, firmware or
Hmm.
software, right? It's like the kind of Bermuda Triangle, okay? And if you start changing software configs while somebody else is flashing firmware, and then you have a third person swapping out hardware, it gets totally chaotic. So
Hmm.
um, so the absolute root cause analysis is kind of isolate everything in layers, right? First, kind of establish the known good hardware, right, at the baseline. Just bring it down to, we'd say, strip down to the bare essentials: minimum RAM,
Hmm.
the minimum CPU, no extra PCI cards, um, and then run a lower level kind of diagnostics across the operating system. And so once you get it down to that, you've got your
Yeah.
hardware is running fine. The second thing then is you move on to the translation layer, like the firmware, right? Is where most things like bugs live, because firmware and hardware, they kind of talk to each other. The trick is kind of looking for a regression state. Um, did this start after the recent BIOS or microcode upgrade,
Yeah.
or new OS kernel that was released, and did that cause the failure? So I suppose finally then it's kind of understanding the foundation. You've isolated the software, and the best way then to do this is to move on to environmental equation, like replicate the crash on the different hardware vendor machines. Instead of using your own one, try it maybe on a HP one or a Dell one or whatever like that. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's kind of the three things there really.
Okay. Okay. Like we talked about the troubleshooting as well as the the root cause analysis process, right? But nowadays everyone is talking about the AI, right? So with your expertise in M365 Copilot, how actually you are seeing the organization actually like adopt the Copilot in practice versus how they think they will, right? So we just wanted to know the ground reality, like is it really helping them, not, if helping in that sense, how it is helping. So we just wanted to know how AI is actually impacting the overall process.
Yeah, I kind of see that this is kind of the million dollar question right now,
Mhm.
because there's a massive gap right
Yes.
between um, the company boardrooms expectation and people having a chat in the lunchroom, about the reality about Copilot. So,
Yes.
like, yeah, organizations are kind of, they're buying plug and play productivity miracles. They're saying, okay, we buy all these licenses here and just um, give them out to people, and they'll switch them on, and next all of a sudden we're going to save loads of time, and maybe probably some people are talking about losing employees and whatever, but uh, that's that's not actually what's actually happened. So organizations are kind of adopting it
Mhm.
in a completely different way. I suppose real world shows us while companies are buying um, loads of licenses
Yeah.
and throwing them out there, they're not actually doing anything. So I suppose Copilot makes, people are using Copilot and whatever, and then all of a sudden they kind of just go back to the manual way they're doing it, because it's not a kind of thing that runs itself. You have to get in there and you actually have to use your brain, and you have to come up with prompts and how to get Copilot actually, like the word Copilot is not your, it's
Hmm.
your flying the plane, not the co-pilot. He's only supposed to help you. So yeah,
Correct.
it's a difficulty kind of rolling it out at the moment. So the adoption part is incredibly difficult for different organizations. I'd just like to mention there's a great website there that Microsoft has. It's called adoption.microsoft.com, and it kind of gives a lot of information how companies can actually roll it out, and it gives all the different scenarios like customer service, marketing, um, IT, HR. They have all the scenarios, and they even give you the prompts and the whole lot. So yeah, the adoption part is kind of, I think,
Hmm.
a big one for companies.
Yes. Yeah, and I think yes, it is going to change every process. And but yeah, I think you will also agree that it is not going to replace human at all, right? Because human intelligence is needed for sure. But yeah, the way we are utilizing the tools nowadays will be completely changed with the tools like M365 Copilot and other AI tools, because it is going to help you to remove those kind of redundant work, the duplicacy of the work, right? So there it can help, and then rest of the things is again depends on the human intelligence. So this is how we are seeing at the impact of the AI. And you know what, Frank, while doing some research about your profile, I found very interesting thing in one of the posts where you mentioned aligning the manufacturing system with the global IT and Industry 4.0 standards. So could you please help us to understand what does that alignment actually require in the practice, why it is required, and what it is helping us, like how it is helping us in the system?
And so is that kind of like you're talking about the global IT industry 4.0?
Yes.
Or yeah. So
Yes.
you hear the term industry 4.0 and IT OT convergence, right? But
Hmm.
in practice, it's kind of aligning global IT with the manufacturing shop floor, right? So there's a massive cultural and technical clash here because, right, essentially you're trying to marry different engineering mindsets and speak entirely different languages, right? So global IT in the world where ultimate goals are data, confidentiality, and agility. If IT has bugs, you take it offline and you apply a patch and you reboot it and you're back. But
Hmm.
in the manufacturing floor, it's operation technology, you know. So like if you go onto the manufacturing floor there of any sites, you'd see there's multi-million dollar automation assembly lines, right? They could be chemical batches,
Correct.
um, spoils and pieces of physical machinery. So trying to marry the two of them up, is very difficult. Like so, um, like I suppose first you have this structural network,
Hmm.
you never can allow a corporate laptop right inside an office to click straight onto the shop floor, say to a PLC programmable logic controller on the factory floor. So
Yeah.
there's not a kind of real crossover with the two of them. Um, so the second part of it, like if you think of it, factories are like museums of technology. I've seen it down through the years. Like you have a brand new AI enabled vision systems. You know, the cameras that look at circuit boards and things like that. And then you look across the floor, and next you've got a 30-year-old CNC machine turning out legacy protocols. Um, so it's very important to have a kind of unified governance. How are you going to get this new technology, to marry up with the very old technology? You know what I mean? Because there's, I suppose the security thing, the risk of getting stuff hacked and things like that if you connect them onto a network. So that
Hmm.
there's that's a big part of it, marrying the old technology with the new technology.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And like if you talk about security, particularly about security, so because with security under your belt, what do you think? Like, what's the most overlooked security risk you see when see in server as well as hardware environment specifically? Like how you are looking at those security related aspects?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. Um, so when you think about cybersecurity, right, most people think about software. Okay,
Yeah.
you run this. software package over the top of everything, and you know, um, you think about phishing emails, you know what I mean, unpatched code, firewall breaches, but there's a lot more to security, right? Because you have physical infrastructure, right? You've got servers that are sitting, there's a thing called BMC,
Mm-hmm.
that's a baseboard management controller. So you've got a big, massive circuit board, right? That's on a server, but inside that there's a sub layer that's kind of manages all the chips on the actual board, and the software doesn't have anything to do with those. You know, your antivirus thing or whatever like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of someone has a kind of a backdoor to access the server, you know, through this mini kind of operating system on this big circuit or the server, and so it's totally outside of the person, we say, or the team that's actually overlooking the actual server. They're looking at the software above it, but below it, there's kind of different threats that could be there, like on the motherboard. You know, we could impact directly into the motherboard's BIOS, you know, basic input output system. It can extract micro architectural side channel kind of attacks. So it can quietly sniff encryption keys straight out of a CPU cache, you know, from one of these things. It can even manipulate physical hardware telemetry, and it could turn off, we say, cooling fans, or it might alter the voltage on the board. You know what I mean? So this could, stuff like that, could destroy $1 million racks of AI servers or something like that. So there's still, one I kind of heard recently, um, and they got attacked through a printer, you know. So printers are on networks and things like that. So, you know, people don't think about these things. They think, okay, we have this software running across our whole stack and that will protect us. But they forget about all these other kind of older devices that are actually plugged into your network. So that's kind of
Okay. So
something
I
to think
think
about.
yes, I think like with this explanation, one thing is clear to everyone that when we are talking about cybersecurity, it is not related only to the softwares. There is a huge impact on hardware as well. So if you really want to make sure that you are secure, so make sure that both your software as well as hardware are completely secure. Otherwise, you might got impacted with the cyber attacks. So that's a very insightful thing you just shared with everyone, Frank. And I'm sure it will break those kind of myth, those who believe that it's only related or applicable on software, but it is not. So that's a great learning for everyone. Okay, so now, like we all know that as an expert and cybersecurity expert and as a MVP, right? So you have contributed a lot and you have served as a mentor, also Microsoft certified trainer, and you have touched so many lives with your work. But if we talk about your journey, looking back on your own journey, who were the key people around you who had a defining impact on your journey so far?
Yeah, that's looking back, I suppose when I first joined EMC back in 2000,
Mm-hmm.
we had a trainer there. He was actually a very good trainer. Frank Smith is his name. And
Okay.
one of the things Frank showed us, and I actually still use it today, and I'd see him around, and it was Windows M. So if you press the Windows button on your keyboard and M, any screen you're looking at just goes down to the taskbar. So it was kind of
Hmm.
one of the tricks that kind of stuck in my head for years. if you're at a computer or whatever inside a workspace and somebody comes over and you don't want them to see something or whatever, press the Windows M button, everything goes down to the taskbar. So that was kind of one thing that stuck with me for years. But I suppose the second person, and I'd say he's brilliant, and he is Dan Ray is his name. Dan is from Chicago, and he's also an MVP. And he kind of helped me along the MVP route as well, and helped me set up the journey to the cloud. Well, he was one of the former founders as well, and Dan kind of got me into, helping other people with mentoring. If somebody wanted to get into the MVP program, he kind of showed me kind of that stuff. So I'd like to thank Dan Ray for that. And another person I've learned a lot from, and she was on the Azure and AI show a few times, is Amelia Hernandez. And Amelia is, she is also a Microsoft MVP. And I had her, we run the show every week, and Amelia was on one week. We normally kind of run it for an hour. And Amelia was on one week, and she was showing some stuff in Power Platform, and it was around workflows. And we had so many people on that they were asking, Amelia, can you please show us some more stuff? So we ended up, instead of doing 1 hour, we ended up doing 2 hours because it was so exciting, And one other person I'd like to mention as well is Amy Diamond. Amy is SharePoint MVP, and he does a lot of stuff around Copilot, and he pops into the show there every now and again, and he's always on top of the new stuff that comes out. And most recently there, he was talking about this new co-work that Microsoft is coming out with. So they're kind of a few people, that kind of come to mind when I talk about my journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, although Frank, honestly, there are plenty of things that we can discuss here on cybersecurity, hardware, and your expertise area, but we are on short on time, so I just want to take one more question before we conclude. And this question is regarding the place you belong from. So, as a proud citizen of Ireland, if you had to share one piece that is really close to your heart about your country and that you wish to share with everyone, with a global audience, so what would you share with them?
Okay, for me, the best thing about Ireland, right, is our culture and conversation and welcome. We have this thing in Ireland is called Cé Míle Fáilte, and that's a million welcomes, So like if you're in the tech industry and you meet somebody and what's the first question do people ask? What do you do? What's your title? No, in Ireland, we want to share a story, a bit of crack, fun and conversation. So I suppose from seeing the kind of blend of stuff from ancient stuff to hyper modern everyday, we have global technology hubs here in Ireland. The world's biggest tech and pharma are here in Ireland, operating out in Dublin and Cork. Like we've Meta, Google, Microsoft. Here in Cork, we have Apple, and they're all the company European headquarters. And I suppose another thing I'd like to mention, like I'm from Cork myself, and we have the famous Blarney Castle, and a lot of people from all over the world go to see Blarney Castle, and it's kind of famous. They go to kiss the Blarney Stone, And they say if you kiss the Blarney Stone, you get the gift of the gab. So
Okay.
that's some of the fun things here in Ireland.
Okay. So yeah, thank you so much, Frank, for joining us today in this episode and for sharing so much information regarding the cybersecurity, your professional journey, and also we learn a lot about Ireland as well. So it was really a pleasure talking to you here, and I really enjoyed the discussion. So thank you once again for being a part of the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Amit. Thank you.